Hey everybody, it's Angie and welcome to Hot and Flashy. I am so excited about today's video. I mentioned this to you I feel like it was months ago now that I went out to California and filmed this video, but this is a collaboration video that I did with Omnilux and Dr. Dre. For those of you who don't know Dr. Dre, she is a dermatologist here on YouTube who I really like and respect. And we had met before like 5 years ago at a conference, and Omnilux thought it would be a great idea to bring us together to talk about everything skincare and anti-aging in this video. So it was a really exciting opportunity for me. As you guys know, Omnilux is one of my favorite anti-aging devices. It's one that I've used consistently and uninterrupted for the last 3 or 4 years, I want to say. And I had such great results with it that I was an instant convert to red light therapy. We're basically going to discuss all things skincare, all things anti-aging, and then we have a Q&A for each other at the end. So definitely stick around for the Q&A at the end. And so without any further ado, I bring you my Omnilux video with Dr. Dre. I hope you enjoy it. You know, society wants to put older women in a box. We're supposed to be in the background. We're not supposed to be seen or heard. And I think the industry is now showing women with wrinkles, with flaws, with, silver hair.
Estrogen actually is a big player in telling the cells in the deeper layers of our skin to make that collagen. And once that starts to drop off, that's when women really start to see a visible difference in their skin. That's really when they start asking a lot of questions about, what can I do?
It's kind of a crisis.
Exactly.
Guess who's here?
Oh my God!
How are you?
Doing great.
God, I haven't seen you in so long.
I know. I can't believe it. It's been like how many years?
5.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
I don't even want to think about how fast time goes.
I know.
Great to be here.
I know, so nice to see you again.
Yeah, 2019 AAD.
Yep.
I am here in Washington, D.C. Hey!
Hey, everybody! Look, it's Dr. Dre. I was there with Neutrogena.
Yes, yeah, so much
I
has
slipped
changed.
into your DMs and was like, hey, Dr. Dre, are you here?
Yeah. We had lunch together.
Yeah.
I was reflecting on that last night because so much has grown in the skincare space since 2019. It's just, at the beginning, when I started my channel, it was a much smaller space, and it's just amazing to see how people's enthusiasm for skincare and learning about the science behind skincare has really evolved dramatically since then.
Yeah, it's really exploded. I mean, the audience that's come in and that watches YouTube now is huge.
Yes.
And I thought, when I started and I was 50, that there wouldn't be anyone out there to watch. But it's amazing that there are even mature women out there. There are young people who are so young who are interested in skincare now, and everybody in between. And it's really taken on a life of its own.
Yes. You really were a pioneer on YouTube for giving a voice to women over the age of 40 even, because at the time it was mostly young college-age gals doing makeup tutorials, and there really wasn't a voice for more mature skin on YouTube. And
that's exactly why I started, because I was looking for information on skincare for mature people, because I was 50, and every video I saw was like a 30-year-old, putting on a cream and saying, "This really works for my wrinkles." And I was like, "What wrinkles? You're so young. Your skin is so beautiful."
Yeah.
And I was dealing with a lifetime of super intense sun damage, and really the damage was done. And so that's why I started my channel. But it was such a learning curve for me, because there were no dermatologists on YouTube back then, and there wasn't anywhere to get good information. I feel like you were one of the very first dermatologists who popped up on YouTube. And I think you started a few years after me, but it's been really great having so many dermatologists out there. But I love your channel especially, because I feel like we have an affinity with sunscreen and everything. But I'd love to hear more about how you started your YouTube channel, what made you decide to even do that, being a practicing dermatologist.
So I was watching a lot of YouTube at the time, and I found that there was either just kind of a gap in knowledge with skincare that I felt like I would see in comment sections, people asking questions and, looking for more information. But then, of course, there was a lot of misinformation out there, a lot of gimmicks. And then I also was motivated to start on YouTube because I found that a lot of patients were coming to me, as happens because access to a dermatologist isn't necessarily readily available for a lot of people. And also, I found that when people did end up in the office, they had tried so many things to fix their skin problem that if they'd only known just a few tiny little pieces of information, they could have saved themselves a lot of headache. So I felt like this general skin advice that I take for granted, knowing if I could just share it for the other people, it could really save them a lot of time and effort and headache. And that was really a big motivating factor for me. That and a dermatology office visit, unfortunately, is very, very short. We don't have a lot of time with the patient. It's the one of the things I hate the most about dermatology is we just don't have enough time with the patient, as much time as we would like. And so we have to give instructions as efficiently as we can. And sometimes things just get lost in communication. I really wanted to have a platform where I could go in deeper on skin conditions, topicals, how to use topicals. Just, we learn as a child oftentimes how to swallow a pill, a vitamin, but nobody really teaches you how to use a topical for a skin condition, when to use it, how much to use. A lot of patients would come back saying, I already finished that cream you prescribed. Can you re-prescribe? It's like, you only needed to use this much. So I was really motivated to get online and just put that kind of information out there in an effort to really buy back some of the office visit time that gets lost in the day-to-day. So that was really a big motivating factor for me, was to provide information to somebody who might be like struggling with their skin, just looking for a little bit of guidance, who may not have access to that kind of information. So, yeah.
I mean, I think we're all just looking for some help, because we all have busy lives and we don't know where to turn to get skin information, and YouTube is such a valuable resource. So like, I like doing my little before and after videos, where I'll do just a little experiment on my face and be like, okay, I'm going to try this now. And then I'll take the before pictures and the afters. But it's just, I'm trying to help myself to learn more, but also to help other people along the way. So it's been a really interesting journey to start with skincare, because actually, when I was like 50 and I first started, I didn't really think that there was much that you could do at home or topically to help your skin. But over the 12 years that I've been doing YouTube and doing all these little experiments on my face, I found out that there are some things that actually work. And there are a lot of things that you talk about because you've seen them in clinic and in your work. And it turns out that they're like the same things. So it's been so, rewarding, gratifying for me to see the dermatologists, including yourself on YouTube, talking about the things that I stumbled upon and started using and that actually did work for me, and that you can see the difference in my before and after pictures. So I love being able to show those to people, and that way they get to make the decision,
Yes. Yeah.
They can take a look at it. If they like it, fine. If they don't think they see any difference, that's fine too. But I think people just want to know from an actual person, like,
Exactly.
I used this, I tried this, I hated it, I loved it.
How do you feel like your skincare product choices have evolved with age, like compared to when you were in your 20s, right? Like things are probably different as far as what you reach for.
Right, yeah. Well, when I was in my 20s, it was in the 1980s. And so, number one, there wasn't great skincare out there. The only skincare that there was from the department store, and you would go up to those counters with the ladies in the white lab coats as though they had something sciencey in there. And it was a lot of fluff, I'd say. I feel like back then there weren't a lot of good ingredients in the skincare. It was mainly moisturizers. The skincare itself has evolved so much in that time since I was 20, that's 40 years. And now I feel like, almost because of social media, it's pushed the skincare industry to reinvent itself and put actual effective ingredients in the products. And now you can get products with effective ingredients at the drugstore. You don't have to pay a fortune for them. You don't have to rely on, some miracle sea broth that's going to do
Right.
something, it claims to do something when really it's just going to moisturize your skin. So from the industry alone standpoint, it's come so far. It's really amazing. For me, in my 20s, I was a sun worshiper, so I wasn't really doing skincare. My skin was fine. I never had acne. So my skin was always very healthy, but I loved being in the sun. Anytime I could have my face in the sun, burning, didn't matter to me. I didn't care. I thought, my mother actually said, honey, you should probably not spend so much time in the sun. You're going to end up getting wrinkles. And I said, you know what? When I'm 60, I'll be old and I won't care. Haha, joke's on me. So when I turned 50, I did care, because by then all that 40 years of sun damage was really showing up on my face, and I had way more, wrinkles, everything, than I do now because of the skincare that I started using when I was 50. So, from 20 to 40, didn't do anything. Never wore sunscreen, washed my face, didn't really even wear makeup, or didn't put on a moisturizer. I had no skincare routine. And now it's funny to see how skincare routines are everything for everyone. And of course, now my skincare routine is enormous. And because the more I researched what products could work and what ingredients could work, the more I found out that there were very few that actually did anything, right? And that there was a lot of fluff that you didn't need, but that the ingredients that you wanted couldn't be put together or wouldn't be put together in a product. So you had to buy a whole mess of separate products to get the things that actually worked. But I did just try to concentrate on those main key things: sunscreen, tretinoin, retinoids, niacinamide, peptides, CoQ10, ceramides, the main things, and get those into my skincare routine. So that was the difference for me between 20 to 50, is that you could get the ingredients at a reasonable price in the products. And so now my skincare routine, I love, and I can't go a day without it. Even traveling for today, I pack the whole thing.
Yes.
I bring it all, because, if I'm going to be like this filming, I want to look my best. And I feel like my skincare routine really gets me there.
Right. And that's the thing about skincare that I always emphasize to people, whether it be a device that you're using or just the products that you have, it has to be something that you are actually going to stay consistent with. And I think, in our younger years, we're a lot more instant gratification driven, and maybe think that, if I just, use this hot new moisturizer, it's going to give me glass skin, and that's going to be that. And then it goes in the shelf. And that's really not, what's going to lead to the results that you're looking for or really help your skin at all. It's more about just staying consistent. Even if it's the most, you think it's a boring routine, if it's something that you stick with, it's going to pay off dividends in the long run.
Yeah, I was actually shocked. And because like I said, I didn't really expect anything I could do at home to make a difference. And it really has made a huge difference between the skincare and then the devices that I use, which is another thing that's changed so much in that amount of time, is that there really weren't any at-home devices that you could use. And, now everything with miniaturization and technological advances, there are great devices that you can use at home, not to give you a in-office type treatment, but something that you can use for maintenance, that you can really see great results with in a shorter amount of time. Because skincare, gotta say, as much as I love skincare, it takes a long time for skincare to work, not just overnight, a couple of weeks, even a couple of months is short. In skincare world, I feel like it's 6 months minimum to see much of a difference with anything. But with some of the devices, you can really see results a lot quicker than that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And, they can help augment your skincare routine and even get you to a place where you're getting better absorption of some of the ingredients potentially. So there's a lot of noise out there, though, as far as different devices. And I know you are an Omnilux lover like myself. How did you stumble into Omnilux LED masks? And was that something on your radar, red light? Or?
Well, red light was not really on my radar, and I did really stumble into it. Another brand had sent me their red light mask, and it had been in my PR closet for over a year. And then during COVID, I was like, wait, what's this? I was kind of cleaning out, you know, how everyone was cleaning during COVID. So I found this mask and I was like, oh, well, maybe I should try this. So I started wearing it. I was doing one of my trials, so I took the before pictures, and then I was going to use it consistently for 3 months and then do the after pictures. And when I took the after pictures, I was shocked because usually, you know, I do these before and afters, and 90% of the time, I see no difference. And I do a video about it anyway. I'm like, sorry, this one didn't pan out. With this one, I was like, wow, look at these results. I can't believe this. And the thing is, I knew that it was going to be that good because about a month into using it, people started commenting. Viewers started commenting. My family and friends started saying, what are you doing? Did you go get something done? And I was like, no, I'm just using this mask. So I did the video on the mask, and then people were so interested in red light, and there were a lot of other brands on the market. There's a lot of noise around it, and people were like, well, why should I buy, you know, this one mask that you used? I'm like, well, because I can't speak to the others. But they all wanted a video on what the differences were, what was a good one, what was a good price point. So I started doing, you know, one of my like nerdy deep dive videos, and I charted out what it took to make a good mask, what the wavelengths needed to be, what the power and the intensity needed to be, how many bulbs there should be, all this stuff. And I did a video on that, and I listed out all the masks and did a grid and was like, okay, so here's the 3 or 4 good ones. And while I was researching that video, I, of course, was looking into the research on red light therapy and how it could help your skin. And all the research had been done by the Omnilux company. And so that's what I was using as the basis for deciding if a mask was good. So the specs on the mask had to match the specs on the dermatologist office array that they use. Now, granted, it's not the same thing because, you know, one's a professional one that costs $25,000 and one's an at-home model that's, you know, under $400. But the wavelengths had to be the same. And the amount of joules and the amount of intensity that you were getting had to come close so that over time with your sessions, you could actually get a relatively similar treatment that would actually do something. And while I was researching that and going on the Omnilux website, one time I typed it in and this other Omnilux website came up, Omnilux LED. And I was like, well, wait a minute, what's this? They make a mask? Oh my God. And it was because they had just come out with it. It wasn't out even 2 weeks before that when I started doing the research. So it was like the night before I was shooting the video. And I'm like, oh, they make a mask. But I thought, well, I got to put the video up anyway. This is the one. So I didn't have it in my hands yet, but I did the whole video and I was like, but look, you guys, so these are the 2 or 3 that are good that match, but there's one that I don't have. And it's this Omnilux mask, and it's made by the people who make the professional one. And I'm like, you know, you can't get any better than that. And of course, all the specs match up perfectly. So it had, you know, the most light bulbs, the most, you know, the most accurate wavelengths. And after that, I think Omnilux probably saw my video. I'm not sure if they sent me my first mask or if I bought it. I can't remember, but I want to say they sent it. And so I started using their masks, and then people were like, well, can you do another, you know, 3-month before and after? So I did. And even though I had used the first mask, it was just for my face, and I saw even more results using the Omnilux mask. But the best part was that using this, the results on my neck and chest were amazing because I hadn't used any red light there. And also because my neck is sensitive, so I can't use my tretinoin in there. And so my neck is like lagging behind my face in the anti-aging department. And a lot of times, you know, when I'm looking at the before and after pictures, I am so disappointed. And with this mask, I was so thrilled. I was like jumping out of my skin that I could actually see a huge difference. You know, sometimes I see a difference and it's so slight that I'm like, is it worth the time and the money? You know, because you're going to spend your money on it. You're going to put in 10 minutes a day, 3 days a week for 3 months to see something. You know, is it worth it? And with this, it was so obvious in the pictures that it was so worth it. So that's how I stumbled onto Omnilux. And, you know, still, I keep looking at the other masks. And for me, there's no mask that matches the specs on the Omnilux still. So that's why I stick with it. And I got to say, I've been using it for, I want to say 3 years now. And I use a couple of other devices, but this is the one that I'm the most regular with. Did I show you my before and after pictures?
Yeah, I want to see
From
these because
Omnilux?
I talk about red light. I recommend it, but I actually use the mask myself, and I too have seen just an improvement in my skin using the mask at home. It's something that's a great thing to use to complement procedures that you're having done in the office, and it's the kind of thing, like I mentioned with your basic skincare routine. It works if you stay consistent with it and you use it, and the longer you're using it, it's very gratifying because you see those results over time, and it's really one of those things that if you put the effort in, it will pay off.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so start here and swipe this way, but those are my before and afters. And with my face, things that I could see within the first couple of weeks of starting with the mask is what you were just talking about, was with the reduction of redness in my skin and the clarity. And I felt like my pores were looking smaller.
Yeah, it's all through that collagen building effect.
Yeah, because it makes the collagen more dense, doesn't it?
Exactly.
It also helps with collagen density.
And our pore size, one of the reasons why pores get more obvious when we get older is because the supportive framework around them, you lose that. You lose the collagen. You lose about 1% of collagen in your skin every year starting in your 20s.
Right.
So that adds up over time. And as that supportive framework gets lost, the pore just dilates out because it doesn't really have that structure there. So through the collagen stimulating effects of the light, you definitely can get a diminishment in pores and just an overall improvement in the surface appearance of the skin, which you definitely can see in these photos. As a side note, if you ever want to have a side business of medical photography, these are great photos. I mean, it's quite clear. These are really showing very nice. I mean, you can really, the before and after of the neck, it's like, you can clearly see a diminishment in wrinkles.
Yeah, because when I used the neck mask, hadn't used anything on my neck in a long time. And after the 3 months of using it, I was like, wow, my neck wrinkles were so much smaller. And it was just shocking. So that's how I came to be an Omnilux lover. How about you?
Well, like I said, there's so many devices on the market that people are always asking about. Is this worth doing? Is this worth doing? Mm-hmm. That when red light at-home masks came into the market, it's like, well, this is actually a treatment modality that we use, albeit like you said, the masks are not the same medical unit, but they're still created in a way that can reproduce those results when used consistently to a certain extent. And so there's actual science behind what red and near infrared wavelengths of light do for our skin, as opposed to, you'll encounter these devices that it's like, what is this random gyrating object they're claiming is, anti-aging, when that's not something we use as dermatologists. Like, we're not treating people with that. Or where are the papers to say what exactly this is doing for our skin? It's mostly just marketing fluff, right? Yeah. But with red light therapy and near infrared, it's a process known as photobiomodulation. And it's doing quite a few beneficial things for the skin in that it actually can stimulate the cells in the deeper layers of our skin to make new healthy collagen, which is really what a lot of people are seeking, something to help with the collagen loss that inevitably happens with age. So there's that, it can improve collagen, and the downstream effect of that is smoothing out of wrinkles, fine lines, improve elasticity, snap, and recoil. And those are cosmetic benefits, but they're also functional benefits as well to the health of our skin. As we get in our wiser years, we want our skin to be as healthy as possible. It's easy to forget it's an organ system with like a true function in keeping us healthy. But also it has anti-inflammatory benefits, which can translate into things like improving redness, skin irritation. And it also can help with improving circulation in the skin. And ultimately, that really can translate into you potentially seeing better results from the skincare products that you are using. Our skin is a barrier. That's what it's supposed to do. But when we want to use certain skincare ingredients, it's like, let us in. So it's possible through the improved circulation that you actually get, slightly better absorption of some of the active ingredients you might be using. You mentioned peptides. A lot of patients and people in the public are interested in using peptides to improve the look of wrinkles, and popular peptides like matrixyl and argireline, which you encounter in a lot of serums. It's always this question of how well are they getting in? They seem to help people out, but having that aspect of using it in conjunction with these masks can really help get better results. So it essentially exhibits synergy with your skincare. And I think people really like that. They like to know that not only is it science-based, it's something that is clinically meaningful, but it's also going to help their routine not compromise what they've already invested their money in as far as products and time and effort. That it's actually, potentially going to help. Is great when you put the time in to see the results. And these devices are definitely, the science behind them is there. And like you said, why Omnilux? And there are a ton of devices out there.
Right.
Not all of them are necessarily created equal. And as you encountered in your research, Omnilux has, the research backing over, I think, 40-something peer-reviewed papers. So it's like a no-brainer almost. And they really, put the science into the right wavelengths of light to deliver the outcome that you're looking for. And the biggest thing for me, too, when recommending a device to patients or consumers is safety. And they have devices that are rigorously tested for safety. So you don't, I'm not worried that it's some faulty device that's going to overheat randomly or something like that. It's really, gone through a lot to clear for safety, which, is very important to me.
And I really like it that it has really just the 2 wavelengths of light that you need for anti-aging. Because you were talking about the collagen and how we lose 1% a year from our 20s. Well, then after menopause, you lose like another 20% in the first 5 years of menopause. So you've lost 30% up to then, and now you're losing 20. Now you're down 50% of your collagen. And there are masks that have, 7 colors, but the other colors don't have any real proof behind them saying that they do anything, especially for anti-aging. And so, people always want to get a cheaper mask or find something less expensive. And a lot of the less expensive ones will be like, oh, but we have 7 colors. I'm like, yeah, but the other colors, you're wasting your money on those bulbs because you don't need those. You just need the red and the near infrared because those are the ones that are the proven wavelengths to affect anti-aging in your skin.
Exactly. And, I talk to people about this idea of collagen banking that, like you said, we lose about 1% of collagen every year starting in our 20s. But then for women with menopause, as estrogen levels decline, estrogen actually is a big player in telling the cells in the deeper layers of our skin to make that collagen. And once that starts to drop off, that's when women really start to see a visible difference in their skin. That's really when they start asking a lot of questions about, what
It's
can I
kind
do?
of a crisis.
Exactly. And I think, having conversations about collagen banking and just understanding that there are some things that you can do meaningfully to protect the collagen that you have and potentially help maintain and produce new healthy collagen moving forward. No, you're never going to completely avoid collagen loss, completely avoid wrinkles or aging. That's like an almost delusional concept. And we shouldn't fear the aging process, but there certainly are things that can be done to really keep your skin its best as you get into your wiser years, as I like to say. And this is one way to do it that, combined with sun protection, it's really a powerful force for long-term skin health. And, another way of looking at it is I also encourage people from not just their skin, but for their total body to stay physically active, make sure that they're eating a balanced diet, getting good sleep, managing stress. All of these things, they may seem like a nuisance, but they really do have an additive effect in your overall health. And your skin is really just like a window to that internally. And when people look at it that way, it becomes less of this simply superficial aesthetic thing and more like, okay, now I can really get on board with, if I do these things, it might help my skin be healthier when I get older.
Collagen isn't the only thing that slows down as we age.
Right.
Like everything that makes your skin what it is in its youth slows down as you age, the production of everything. So ceramides and, all the fatty lipids that we need and hyaluronic acid, it's such a multi-pronged thing that happens. Aging isn't just one thing that happens to your skin. It's the slowing down of all these processes and the skin cell's ability to make all these substances that keep your skin youthful and plump and springy, and collagen is one aspect of it, but it's not 100%. And so, something like this where it gives your skin that extra blood flow and that extra energy so that it can make more of all the things.
Right. Yes, it really does, in effect, improve energy in the skin. And skin is a dynamic structure. It's not just this stagnant thing that, all right, I'm in my 20s, it's like this. I'm in my 30s, it's like this. There are all of these fundamental processes that happen on a daily basis to recover from damage. The skin, the epidermis is always turning over, and that slows down with age. So there's just a lot of moving parts. Mm-hmm. And red light therapy can definitely help address a lot of those things in a meaningful way by jump-starting some of the metabolic processes that happen in these cells as that slows down with age.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that obviously we both agree on the use of sunscreen as being one of the most important things that you need to do for your skin, because, I always say there's no point in using something like this or any skincare if you're not also going to protect it from the sun.
Right.
Because that is number one, is not inviting more sun damage and more, killing of the collagen that you do have through sun exposure. And also that things like this, if you're not going to be consistent with it, like you were saying before, if you're not going to use it, you're not going to be consistent, they don't work if they are gathering dust in a drawer. So I always tell people, don't buy it if you really aren't going to use it. But that's one of the things that I love most about this, is because it's so easy to use. Mm-hmm. Other things, you have to smear goo all over your face and you have to stand there rubbing it and doing all this other mm-hmm. stuff. With this, you just put it on. It's 10 minutes. You can relax. You can multitask. You can do whatever you want. And then it's done. And it's nice that then you don't have to wash your face again, or, you can just put on your skincare and you can go.
Exactly.
So one of the questions I wanted to ask you is about skincare to use with it, because I get so many questions about using green tea with it.
Mm-hmm. Well, depending on when you choose to do it, if it's going to be during the day, then I would say sunscreen, of course. Mm-hmm. And sunscreen, it is protecting you from the damaging effects of ultraviolet radiation, but it's also a moisturizer too. Like, they're typically in a lotion or cream base. So that's going to help with really sealing in the moisture into the skin and really helping with the smoothing out of fine lines as well, and just keeping the skin from becoming irritated throughout the day as we're exposed to all of the environmental aggressors. But in the evening time, I always tell people, regardless, it's a good idea to put on a moisturizer before you go to bed at night, because that's really when the skin loses more water and is more prone to dryness and irritation. And a moisturizer with hydrating ingredients like hyaluronic acid or even a hyaluronic acid serum can really help to replenish the water and just help overall with moisture content in the skin. Mm-hmm. And like I mentioned earlier, in theory, the benefits of using a mask like this do allow for better uptake of those ingredients, which is a plus. So I would say that would be, maybe something to lean into. Or if you're someone who uses peptides in your routine and you want to have them get into the skin well, this might help as well along with that and really allow for those peptides to get in and help with hydration, and potentially, there is some idea that they may help with our collagen. To what extent remains thoroughly to be determined, but if you've invested in them, then that would be a good time to put them on. And a lot of people actually ask me about using this along with retinol. And how do you use you mentioned you use tretinoin.
Yeah.
How do you use your tretinoin with your mask?
Yeah, I put on my tretinoin at night and I go to bed. I use my mask in the morning, and, I kind of do it a little bit wrong because I keep it on my bedside table. I open my eyes, I put it on. Mm-hmm. So I don't get up and wash my face first. So potentially the tretinoin is still on or in my skin from the night before. And Omnilux does have a little warning on their website about using it with retinoids. that there can be a little bit of a reaction. For me, I haven't had the reaction. I believe it happens in a small percent of the population. But people need to be aware of it. And I think it's, maybe you can explain it better than I can. It's more of if you have a light sensitivity, that those things are going to interact. But for, I think, the vast majority of people, they're not going to have a problem with it. So I do use them together with no problem. So.
Yeah, that's definitely the minority of people that would have an issue with using them together for sure. When it comes to prescription topicals, our content and on what we put out online is never meant to be medical advice. And so always talk to your dermatologist, because skin and skin conditions very nuanced, individualized. So always ask the prescriber, hey, is this okay? Because, no one thing is kind of a global recommendation for every single person out there.
Yeah, and I mean, in my videos, I can really only speak to how I use it, what I can use it with, how it works for me, but I can't say, that it's going to be 100% safe for everybody, that nobody's going to have a reaction. I'd like to assure people that most likely you're not going to, but you need to try it and kind of wade into things carefully. The other concern that I hear a lot from people is about eye damage from the red light.
Yeah, again, why I like Omnilux is their level of oversight when it comes to ensuring the safety of their devices. And so their devices are actually more than safe to use without eye protection. They really do diligence by the way that the mask is constructed so that that's not something that people have to worry about.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I love most about your channel is that you don't really play a lot with the misinformation or with ingredients or products that don't work. So you're not falling over yourself all over the next big thing. You're really going to keep it serious about what can actually affect a change in your skin over time. So yeah, it's just nice, and I just really admire your channel, and I think it's been like a huge boost to the information you can get on YouTube.
Thank you.
Literally there were no dermatologists, and it's so great to have that information out there now.
Well, thank you.
And speaking of our community, I asked my audience for questions for you. I don't know if you did the same.
Yes, I have quite a few juicy ones here.
I know.
Put you in the hot seat.
Fun. All right, but mine are mainly about, of course, dermatology and skincare. And first one is about Omnilux. Does the red light mask cause facial fat loss?
No. So this is a big concern I hear from a lot of my audience as well. I mean, we share a lot of common viewers. Will any one device cause facial fat loss? When it comes to red light therapy, no, definitely not. These masks don't even generate any heat in the skin to even begin to have the potential to impact the facial fat compartment. They don't penetrate to that level. So it's not a concern at all. Unfortunately, with the aging process, we do lose and have redistribution of certain fat compartments in our face. And that can sometimes coincide with using devices like this. So it's easy to, think that the two may be related, but in reality, there's no possible way that this could cause facial fat loss. It's simply not a possibility based on how it works and the energy that is put out and the depth of penetration. It just wouldn't access those compartments.
Yeah, that's what I thought about it. And people ask me the same question all the time. To melt fat, it takes an extreme of heat or cold. You either have to freeze it or you have to superheat it to temperatures way higher than this, or like you said, most things would, give you on your skin. But I think it is interesting what you said about it being kind of a coincidence that people start using these things when they're becoming concerned about their skin, other processes are happening, and fat loss is just natural. And so they kind of knee-jerk blame it on the latest thing that they've started using. You got a question for me?
So I get this question a lot, and I have my answer to it, but I want to hear from you because it's a journey that I know you've gone through and been very frank about. I hear people say, I'm my 40s, my 50s, my 60s, and beyond. And frankly, I've never had a skincare routine before. And when I was younger, I'm sad to admit, I spent a lot of time frying my skin in the sun. Is it too late for me? Should I even bother with skincare, a skincare routine? What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, never too late. It is never too late. Like I said, I didn't do skincare until I turned 50. And then I started in it very slowly using just a few ingredients. And over the 10 years that I've been using it, like I said, it's made an amazing change in my skin. But even in the first couple of years, even in the first year, just washing my face, using a moisturizer, like a vitamin C serum, a couple of things, using sunscreen every day, I could start seeing the difference right away. And, for people who are just thinking about skincare, I would say the first thing, not even thinking about topicals that are anti-aging, because the number one anti-aging topical is sunscreen. So the first thing you should do is start wearing sunscreen if you haven't already, because that frying in the sun was the worst thing you could do for your skin. All right, this one, a lot of people ask me. It was like so many people. I think it's because I just started using this new topical estrogen, either estradiol or estriol, and they want to know from you if it really works.
So topical estrogen can work for women around the time of menopause and thereafter, because with menopause we have a decline in estrogens, which end up being really important for producing healthy collagen. And as I mentioned earlier, that's really when a lot of women really start to see their skin change around the time of menopause with that decline in estrogen. And there is evidence that topical estrogen certainly can provide and replenish that stimulus and allow for better collagen production, better, an improvement in skin thickness. It's definitely been shown to be effective, and there is a potential for it to cause hyperpigmentation. That's something that I don't think everybody realizes. If you've ever dealt with melasma, it flares up whenever estrogen levels are maybe high, like in pregnancy or with certain birth control pills. Well, putting it on the skin can have a similar effect for some people. So there's definitely that to consider. We're trying to improve collagen and fade age spots. The last thing you want is to maybe cause hyperpigmentation, but for a lot of people, it does end up being very helpful for their routine. There's topical estrogens that are prescription, and then there are sort of, estrogen-like analogs that some companies have pioneered that can potentially achieve similar effects that are more in the cosmetic realm space. But it's definitely something that a lot of people do find to be beneficial. Not just on the face, but like on the backs of the hands. This is a territory, our neck, the backs of our hands. These are places that we sometimes forget about. And on the backs of the hands, it is definitely can have a beneficial effect. And that translates, as you get into the wiser years in particular, you'll notice a lot of people at extremes of age, they have a lot of stuff going on the back of their hands because it becomes very fragile and vulnerable to, you bang up against something and all of a sudden you have a big bruise there. So in theory, that could have a beneficial effect long-term for the integrity of the skin there. But I would say the research on it long-term is kind of pretty limited as far as the skin benefits for wrinkles and things like that. It can help, but there's some unanswered questions, I would say, as far as what you might expect long-term with it.
Yeah.
All right, and then I got a few more here. This is a great question. With so many products available, it can be overwhelming to build a routine. What's your advice for creating an effective yet simple skincare routine for women in their 40s, 50s, and beyond?
All right. If you want simple and effective, I would say stick with the big three. So in my skincare routine, the big three are sunscreen, shocker, tretinoin, and vitamin C. So those are the three that I think you're going to get the biggest bang for your buck. And they're going to be relatively simple to use, although I shouldn't say that because tretinoin is never simple to use. So sunscreen should also be simple to use, but it's so hard to find one that you really love. A lot of people are like, well, what sunscreen do I use? Do I use chemical or mineral? What do I do? Really, the sunscreen to use is the one that you'll use every day, the one that you like putting on, the one that you like how it lays under your makeup, so you have to find that one. I mean, I've done a ton of videos on sunscreen, so of course, watch my videos, see to pick one. But so sunscreen is number one. Tretinoin, it is the gold standard. It's the heavy hitter. It's the, thing that has, the 40 years of study into it saying that it really does work. So start with that, but it is prescription. If you want to start small, you can get a over-the-counter retinoid. For that, I recommend retinaldehyde. How do you feel about retinol versus retinaldehyde? As precursors, I feel like it only has to go through one conversion, so maybe it'll do more, less irritating.
Potentially, yeah. When it comes to the cosmetics, retinol and retinaldehyde, you also have to put a lot of trust in the manufacturer. You can have a really crummy retinaldehyde product that isn't, maybe formulated that well and doesn't remain that stable. And you can have a really great retinol that gets into your skin and over time is converted to the active form. So it's a bit of a gray area, but on paper, you write things out, it would seem as though retinaldehyde might have more promise, but we really don't know. And again, it boils down to who is making the formula and how well it's formulated. Same thing with vitamin C.
I was just going to say.
Same thing.
Formulation's everything with vitamin C.
I tell people, that it's not necessarily the price point, but it's the brand. What is their track record? Do they have a good R&D behind them? Then the products probably are a lot more reliable. Whereas brands pop up all the time, and it's hard to say. They could be effective, but
right. Yeah. So that's what I would do for a skincare routine for anyone starting off. For anyone who wants to start with a device, I would say that the Omnilux device would be my go-to starter device because, like I said, it's quick, it's easy, it's convenient. You don't have to do any specific skincare with it. And I got to say, it is the one thing that I saw the results with quickest. So if you're like a impatient person, which, who isn't, especially in the skincare game, if you're 40, 50, 60, you're going to be impatient. You've seen, you wake up one day, you're not happy with your skin. You want it to look different, better, within a reasonable amount of time. With tretinoin, I'd say, I started seeing slight changes 6 months, 9 months in. Really took 3 years to see big changes. Now it's been 10 years, amazing. Does everyone want to do 10 years? Not necessarily. Right. With something like this, you can start using it and you can start seeing the difference in your skin within like a month or two. That's when I started seeing, that's when people started noticing the difference in my skin. So even if you don't even want to do a skincare routine, you can buy like one device, start using that, and then you'll see changes in your skin pretty quickly. All right, I thought this one is a good one because everybody's always looking for the next big thing. So this one was, are there any new skincare trends that you like or dislike, including products or devices?
Well, I like the trend of speaking to collagen banking because, it really kind of is something that you can lean towards as far as looking at your skincare more preventative. It's easier to prevent things or to take care of your skin early rather than try and fix things later on down the road. So I like that messaging. Trends come and go as far as marketing. You mentioned glass skin earlier.
Yeah.
Everybody wants luminous, glowy skin, but I really think that the principle of collagen banking makes a lot of sense. So I like that a lot. And I think a lot of the things that we recommend for people to try out that actually are proven to have some benefit, they all sort of center around protecting the collagen that you do have and, in effect, potentially stimulating new healthy collagen in the long run. And I think that's a really smart way to look at things. I also really like that, it can be a good thing and a bad thing, but I do like seeing younger demographic not necessarily get, as I say, obsessed with skincare, but start to really be taking sunscreen and sun protection, sun protected behaviors very seriously, which is really great to see because, even when, I was growing up, I'm not that young, it just was not common to, you put sunscreen on your nose when you went to the beach, right? It just was not common knowledge. And not to mention the sunscreens that we had back in the day were just not that great, frankly.
Yeah.
So I really love the trend of leaning into sunscreen, trying out a bunch of sunscreens. I think it's like the one thing that you could be doing as far as a skincare routine that can translate into meaningful benefit, whether it be for preventing wrinkles, skin aging, dark spots, hyperpigmentation, which some skin tones really deal with a lot more than others. A pimple might heal on someone and go away and be gone. But for another person, it's actually going to leave a dark mark for a long time. And they're often more bothered by that dark mark than they were the pimple. So understanding how valuable sun protection can be, I think it really puts this younger generation about, much farther ahead, advanced in their skincare than, we were, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
So how do you think the beauty industry has evolved in representation of aging women? And what more would you like to see in terms of inclusivity and product innovation?
Loaded question. Well, it really has come a long way, I got to say, because, you never saw a woman with silver hair, wrinkles in any advertisements, and especially for anti-aging skincare. They would be showing you a 22-year-old model with perfect skin, and, it was just such an unrealistic image of who would be using this anti-aging skincare. Even anti-aging is now a term that had a hard time for a little while there. I think it didn't go away and nobody came out with anything better, so it's going to be around for a while. But, I think the thought that anti-aging means that the industry is against aging or that the industry is against old people, it's not what it ever meant. It meant that, people, as they got older, obviously nobody likes to see premature aging on their skin or the results of roasting in the sun for their whole life. You look different. Your looks change as you get older. It's not that everyone wants to still look 20. You just want to look the best that you can. And I think the industry is now showing women with wrinkles, with flaws, with, silver hair, and they're beautiful, and everybody gets to see a realistic image of women in all the stages of life. And, I do a lot of talking on my channel about how, society wants to put older women in a box. We're supposed to be in the background. We're not supposed to be seen or heard from. And, your time in the sun, your time to shine is over once you're over 40, and that couldn't be farther from the truth now. So it's been great to see that all change. But I feel like with everything, it still does have a little ways to go. Like right now, the Silver Sisters are really popular. Everyone's growing their hair out gray, and some people are ready for it. Some people aren't. But now it's almost like the pressure's reversed. The pressure now is to have gray hair, but if you don't want to, sometimes it's like, well, what are you trying to hide? It's like, no, everyone just wants to be able to represent themselves as their best version of themselves, whatever that is. And I feel like in the beginning of my channel, there was a lot of, say, backlash and finger pointing about women who, say, went into a dermatologist's office and had some procedures, or maybe you used Botox, or maybe you had a laser treatment, or even a facelift, whatever. And I think that the dialogue around that is just starting to change, but I think that's an area where it still needs a lot of growth, because women are gonna, and men too, are gonna age how they want to, and some people want to do more interventions and some people want to do less. And, like with everything, everybody's free to do what they want to do, and I want to see a little less shaming around it. So it's interesting. The industry is showing us more naturally aging women, but for those who don't want to age so naturally, I don't think there should be a stigma against that either. I think that, it's like everybody should be free to do what they want to do. If you want to do a few things, then by all means, go ahead and do a few things. And it's interesting, in the comments section, people used to be very judgy about me even getting Botox. And I felt like, I am one of the few people out here who tells you what I get done. No matter anything I have done, I make a video about it, and there you go. Now you've seen it. And I do it because people want to know what things can work. And that's kind of how my channel started as well, was that, I was over 50 and I wanted to know what I could do to help my skin because it was terrible. And if that included a facelift, then that would include a facelift. I mean, it hasn't. I haven't had any surgery, but, so I dabble in in-office things, and it's kind of providing a service because I was looking for videos about those things, and they were all young people, and I wanted to see someone my age, like having a laser thing done or whatever. And so I put it out there, and then people became very judgy about it. And, it wasn't like, oh, I'm trying to give you a service, but if you're interested, if you're not interested, that's fine with me. You don't have to be. But if you're interested, here's what it did for me, and here's how much you can expect to pay, and all that stuff. But I feel like a lot of that is still out there,
Yeah.
a lot of the judging the services. But it's interesting because I feel like it's changed a little bit, because even in some of the questions that I got for you, a couple of them were on, can skincare really help with this? Or is this the kind of thing where you really do need surgery or an in-office intervention? So I think that people are starting to come around to that a little more, that some things, topical skincare and at-home devices, are only going to take you so far. And if you really are unhappy with the quality of your skin anywhere and you want to do something more about it, that at least the resources are there to get information on it and to figure out what you want to do. Because as many skincare things as there are, that's how many treatments there are as well.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it.
Yeah,
But I'm glad it's all evolving.
Yeah, I would say the gray hair topic, whenever I talk about hair graying on my channel, it definitely gets very heated in the comments section.
Very heated.
People have strong views on gray hair, which is interesting.
Yeah. All right, so my turn?
I think so.
All right, so let me ask you that one. That was, I don't even have to read it because I highlighted it. Not one person, a couple people were concerned about their neck, as am I, and basically they said, is there anything topical at home that you can do to help the sagging jowl skin? Like, I'm not just talking a few neck wrinkles. Like, once you get the heavy sagging jowls here, they want to know, is there anything you can really do at home to help with that? Or is surgery the only thing?
So as far as the sagging under the neck, there's not really any skincare that's going to tighten that back up. Tretinoin, for example, improves the collagen, it improves the surface texture, the turnover of the skin, hydration, but that volume loss and sagging, that can't be lifted back up with topicals. And devices that you use at home are unlikely to change that. It's primarily going to be some sort of procedure in office. Doesn't necessarily have to be surgical. Doesn't necessarily have to involve a cut. We've gotten very advanced with things like neuromodulators placed in the neck to smooth things out and tighten things back up. There are all sorts of newer devices that pair microneedling with radio frequency that can tighten the skin. So there are a lot of really advanced, minimally invasive procedures out there that can truly rejuvenate the neck. It's not like, in the 80s and 90s when somebody had a neck lift, it was pretty obvious for a lot of people, like, oh, they had work done. Now, things are a little bit more subtle and less invasive, and there are a lot more options out there. Skincare is not really going to target that, per se.
Okay, good to know.
So this is one thing that I'm really big on, and I want to hear what you have to say because I got this question. As I'm getting older, are there lifestyle changes that I should make for anti-aging benefits?
Whew, another loaded question. Yes, there are. If you're not working out, this is not the time to sit down and be like, okay, I'm done. I can eat whatever I want. I don't have to exercise anymore. I'm just going to coast from here on out. A healthy diet and exercise are two of the best anti-aging things that you can do for your skin. I am not kidding you.
Yeah.
Working out, like you said before, blood flow to the skin. I mean, it's all about blood flow to the skin. And when you get in a workout, you get more blood flow to your skin than just about anything else you can do can provide. When I hear people talk about like skin breathing, people have this idea that skin gets things from the outside. Well, really, skin is a barrier made to keep most things out.
Right.
Some skincare can get in, but your skin gets most of its nutrients and most of what it needs from the inside, right? From the blood flow. So exercise is so important. What you put in your body is so important. Like, I eat a ton of salmon because I like the, what are they called?
The omega fatty acids.
That's it, the omega-3s. The omega-3 fatty acids are so good for your skin. So I eat salmon every day, sometimes twice a day. And a lot of people are like, gross, who can eat salmon that much? I'm like, but you're willing to spend how much on your skincare routine? Like, some people spend hundreds and hundreds a month on a skincare routine. And you can probably do more for your skin if you just wear sunscreen, work out, and eat a healthy diet. It's more than omega-3s. There's a lot of other things, but just like home-cooked, healthy food, I think is the best thing. Yeah, lifestyle is enormous. Of course, not roasting in the sun. You can still go to the beach, but if you're concerned about this piece of real estate right here, then keep that in the shade. Hat, sunglasses, sunscreen, face away from the sun, that can go a long way. Smoking, obviously, no good. Smoking robs your skin of oxygen and everything else that it needs to look healthy. It actually makes your skin look kind of gray, right? So yeah, there's so many, lifestyle is so important. It's not just like a one-trick pony, Like you
Definitely.
can talk to skin and how complicated it is. It's the biggest organ and it's so complex.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, the lifestyle choices really, I don't think people realize the trickle-down effect that even the slightest, like if you go from sedentary to suddenly walking just a little bit more every day, it actually can add up. Every extra step you can work into your day can make a huge difference in the long run, for sure.
Yeah, and I think, you're not going to jump into these things and immediately change over everything in your lifestyle. You're not going to ditch your diet, stop drinking alcohol. Alcohol is another one. I'm not an advocate of like, don't drink at all, but, moderation, everything in moderation. But you can start by, instead of getting fast food for lunch, have a salad. And instead of not doing anything physical, go for a brisk walk. Everything makes a difference. And baby steps, and eventually it becomes such a part of your life that you just love it, and you love the change in your skin, and you love the change in your, body weight. A lot of people complain about, gaining weight as they get older. And that also contributes to all those things as well.
Exactly.
That was a good one. I like that one. Oh, I think this one, I did get a lot of questions about melasma. So this one is, what is melasma exactly, and why does it flare up post-pregnancy? I hear from some sources that red light therapy can help, while others say it aggravates it more. Is this individual?
So melasma is a condition of hyperpigmentation, both on the top layer, the epidermis, which is where like our sunspots and things appear, but also related to pigmentation deep down. And it flares up with changes in hormones, especially estrogen, around pregnancy and with certain birth control pills, because those estrogens do provide a signal to upregulate pigment. That's why a lot of people develop it. It's actually sometimes called the mask of pregnancy, because a lot of women get it during pregnancy. It's very sensitive condition, very fickle. You have to baby it. Irritating skincare products can aggravate it. And there's also a component to it that involves blood flow. And so anything that generates a lot of heat in the skin can aggravate melasma. And so those things together, plus inflammation, drive melasma. So as you're already starting to piece together, it's kind of a complicated condition. And as far as red light has anti-inflammatory effects for the skin, which can benefit a lot of types of hyperpigmentation. But it does also improve blood flow, so you might make the argument that it could potentially aggravate melasma for some people. I've never seen that, but it is something that you might think about. There's also blue light, which the Omnilux contour mask does not have. Blue light is actually known to be particularly an issue for some people with hyperpigmentation. So that's something to think about as well, melasma and hyperpigmentation. But the thing about these masks is they don't actually generate heat. So we don't worry about them from that point of view, worsening melasma. But they potentially could help, but they potentially, in theory, could aggravate. I think it's a very low risk, but it's theoretically possible, I suppose.
It's interesting. As just a little follow-on to that, when I was testing, all the different devices, I found that the masks really didn't generate any heat. They're very cool and comfortable to wear, except for you see the color of the light. Other than that, you really didn't feel anything. I did test a couple of panels and this thing, like a bulb, that was a red light bulb. They all seem to generate heat. Why is that?
So
is it the distance?
Yes. The way that the the lights are positioned and things, and the amount that is necessary from a device where you have a distance between you, it can potentially generate a lot more heat.
Okay.
So it's definitely something like, speaking of trends, there was a trend I saw going around on the internet to just get a red light bulb that you would put in a chicken coop and use that. Don't buy an LED mask, just get a red chicken coop light. And that won't work the same way in the way these do. And a big issue with doing that is not only will it not work, but it can generate a lot of heat that can aggravate your skin. So definitely, there's a lot of nuance to LEDs specifically, and then in these masks and treatment devices where it's not something that you want to just go in your garage and try and rig yourself. It could potentially cause
MacGyvering up your own.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So obviously, speaking of trends, there are always a lot of trends popping up all over the internet. How do you evaluate like what's actually going to be worth trying out, especially for a more mature skin type? At this point, it's like nobody wants to spend any more money on gimmicks. People who are mature, they're really wanting to just focus on what can actually work. They don't want to just follow trends.
It's so hard to pick and choose because there's a new thing every day, and everybody wants a test on it. But I only have one face, and I can only test so many things. A lot of times I just fall back on the research. I'll be like, oh, that sounds interesting. Let me look it up and see if there's any studies. And if I look and I find a bunch of studies and they're good quality and the results seem reasonable and it seems like it's not too difficult to work in, then I'll be like, oh, this seems like there might be something there. I'm not opposed to being like a guinea pig for things. I would be thrilled to find the thing. That was my goal when I started. I wanted to find the thing. Turns out, like I said, it's a lot of things. But so if there's some compelling research there, even if it's small, and it has to still be a well-constructed study, but even if it's little, I'll still take a look at it, try it for myself. I'm a lot of, let me see if it works on me. Something that like a new trend that I haven't looked into that I'm really curious about because I think there is something there, but I'm not sure it's for me, is castor oil, castor seed oil. So that's an interesting one. I'm always testing something else, so I haven't had time to do it.
Yeah.
And I've seen some interesting videos on it, but that's one that will probably pass me by just because I only have one face and there's only so many things I can try at once. So.
Right.
Have any thoughts on castor seed oil?
Well, it's very popular.
Very popular.
Very popular.
What's this thing with putting it in your belly button?
There are a lot of compounds in castor oil that have potential benefits. Ricinoleic acid is like kind of one of the more active components within castor oil. First and foremost, it's a laxative if you ingest it. I don't recommend doing that, but and it's got a lot of moisturizing properties to it. It's very viscous, it's very hydrating. So putting it on the skin, it's no surprise that people find that it's makes their skin look better. I believe them when they say that because it is very moisturizing. I am not an OBGYN, but I do know that there's some concern with taking it if you are pregnant. I think it can cause premature contractions. But as far as skin, my biggest concern is it can cause a contact dermatitis. Now, anything you put on your skin can cause water can cause a contact dermatitis. But it's definitely something that happens to a lot of people, and something I think people experience and may not realize that it's the castor oil that is the problem. But it's definitely an interesting trend, and castor oil is naturally found in not naturally found, but is put in a lot of skincare products as an ingredient. So you're going to find it. It's there. And the way it comes up in dermatology is a patient comes in and they've developed an allergy to it. But again, it's the thing like, well, you can become allergic to anything or irritated by anything. So is it really that much of an issue for everyone? It's hard to say, but it's just something to be aware of.
As an ingredient, is it something that dermatologists are often recommending? Like, you have that? Oh, try castor oil for that, because it seems like it's supposed to fix everything, right? No.
Yeah. It's very viscous. It's an emollient, and it's also very popular. People put it on their eyelashes. There's no evidence that it grows your eyelashes. There's no evidence that it grows your hair. But a lot of people find that their hair looks like it's growing when they put it on. I have always thought a lot of that has to do with the fact that it's so viscous, it coats the hairs and makes them look thicker. I don't have a study or any clinical trial showing castor oil for hair growth. Maybe one day I'll be, eating my shoe and putting my foot in my mouth, and we'll have some, trial showing regrowth. But there's just not the research to support it. Relatively harmless unless you develop contact dermatitis to it. That's about all I can ever say about castor seed oil.
Okay. Okay, I think I have one last question for you. This is an interesting one. A new study suggests that we don't actually age gradually, but rather in two bursts. One in mid-40s and the other in our early 60s. Can testify to that. If you've seen this study, can you comment on what's going on?
Well, like I kind of alluded to earlier, with women in particular during, perimenopause period, which happens around the 40s, you start to experience that decline in estrogen, and you really can see a visible difference in the skin quality. It seems like almost overnight. And also around that time period, you're also starting to have more bone loss in the face. And by the time you're in your 60s, you're going to notice that bone resorption lead to more changes like around the eyes. The cheeks get flatter and things start to descend more. So you definitely have these time bursts where aging changes are more noticeable out of what seems like out of nowhere, for sure. Now, as far as sun damage, that's something that builds up in our skin throughout our lifetime. Cumulative sun damage over our lifetime is what, once we get into our wiser years, has set the stage for certain skin risks like skin cancers, skin thinning prematurely, difficulty with wound healing. If you have a lot of sun damage and you have to have a skin surgery, that will show up then. But that's definitely not something that just came out of the blue, all of a sudden age-related. That was building up over time. So there's certainly layers to the aging process. You also have to think about, extrinsic factors that you're exposed to throughout your life. We've learned so much over the years about things that we're exposed to in our environment, above and beyond just ultraviolet radiation, the big external driver of skin aging. There's pollution. There's infrared radiation. So to say, that those things, like maybe you're not necessarily exposed to those things throughout your lifetime as concentrated as you are at certain time periods, depending on where you're living. I think there's just a lot of moving parts that affect people differently. And then intrinsically, your genetic makeup and things of that sort definitely play a role. So there's a lot to the aging story.
Yeah.
And it's important because, people like to joke about the boomers, but we have a large population now over the age of 65. Older adults make up a big chunk of our population, and it's something that, as a society is a really, really important conversations to have about the aging process, for sure.
Yeah, and I feel like for me, being one of them, I feel like my body tells me every decade that I'm a decade older. Like when I turned 40, I feel like all of a sudden I felt, there were certain things like my eyesight suddenly, it probably wasn't sudden, it probably had been building up, but all of a sudden, boop, couldn't see a menu had to go get readers. And my knee started creaking, had worked out since my 20s, all of a sudden I've got a pain in my joint, Then when I turned 50, I was like, oh my God, your skin, what have you done? It's like, it seemed like it was very sudden, but it was definitely also gradual. And then, 60, a whole bunch of new things. Now I can't see anything. So had to get contacts, multifocals, the whole thing. So I feel like our bodies have their own clock. I mean, obviously nobody's not aging. Everyone is aging every minute of the day from the second you're born until the end. And it's a cumulative effect, but I think people notice it at certain times more, right?
Definitely. Yeah. And now we also have to take into account that we're taking a lot more pictures of ourselves.
Yeah, that's for sure.
I think a lot of people are, a big, one thing that made that very palpable was during the stay-at-home orders, there was such a huge increase in demand for cosmetic procedures, a huge interest in skincare. And a lot of that is attributed to the Zoom effect of people being on camera or these Zoom meetings, working remotely and seeing themselves on a camera all the time. I think that really just makes us hyper aware of things more so than we ever were in the past.
Yeah,
for sure.
That was my first viral video, how to look good on Zoom calls during the pandemic. People went crazy for that one.
Yeah, that was a great video. That's a great tips.
Yeah, so that's so true that people just suddenly started looking at themselves so much more.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. Well, Angie, it was so good to see you again. I can't believe it's been 5 years. We should not go this long without touching base and getting together again.
I know, definitely. I mean, that podcast idea was fabulous.
Yes.
I think we should do that. But no, it's been really great seeing you. And I'm so glad that Omnilux put us together in this, because it really has been so informative and educational, talking to you live and in person, and not just like, you know, haunting your videos and your comment section. So
it's great. Yeah.
It's really great
It's
being
great
here
to
with you
hear
today.
your audience's questions and everything, how they relate to the stuff that we're talking about today. It's really, like I said, I'm very grateful to have this opportunity to be on YouTube, to have these experiences and chat with you guys and everything. I think it's just an amazing thing. I'm very grateful. So I'm really glad we got to get together today.
Yeah, me too. It's been great. Thanks.